Hey, and welcome back to Greasy Boy Customs. Today we're going to be doing some cool stuff with the 1953 Dodge M37. We're taking the original gauge cluster out of it and we're going to sell it to somebody who could use it in their project. And we're going to update it with a 6-gauge setup with a tach and a speedometer and electronic gauges. And we're going to make our own panel from scratch. I'm going to show you how we do that. Let's get started. So as you can see, this gauge cluster is in pretty good shape. You know, it's all original. I don't believe anything's been changed on it. And if we take a look at the back side, you'll see you've got this old style cloth wiring, which is absolutely falling apart. It's a little bit scary. So we're going to update it to modern electronic gauges to match our new modern engine. First, we're going to take our measurement left to right, and then we're going to determine our sizes, and then we're going to leave a little bit of extra to make our bead roll. I've measured it at 6 3/4 inch tall and 12.5 inches wide. We're going to transfer that to our 18-gauge sheet metal and go ahead and start marking it out and get it ready to roll. All right, now we have our gauge panel bead rolled on the edge. We'll go back and clean up the edges and line it up a little bit more later. But we've got to make holes for our gauges. So what I've done is I've taken the gauge and slid the cardboard that it came in behind it and then draw a black line around it so we can trace it out so it's the exact dimensions. A lot of people mess up when they're making their gauge holes because they don't compensate for the lip right here that the gauge has on it. So this cardboard helps do that. I've already got one made for the smaller gauges. I've got one I got cut for the bigger gauges, and then we can go ahead and start laying everything out to see where it lands. Oh man, it's looking good. We got all of our holes cut out with the hole saw. We got our mounting holes cut out. Start dropping the gauges in and make sure everything fits okay. Look at that. This thing's gonna look gorgeous. They look great in there. And here's the old one again, just for a comparison. You see old and new. Now we've got a tachometer and we've got all electronic gauges, GPS driven speedometer, so we don't have to worry about dialing anything in. And we just got to get her painted, mounted up, and we'll be good to go. Now that we've got the gauge panel all cut out and everything's in place and we know that it fits, we can go ahead and start prepping it to paint. Now we're going to paint it that same olive drab army green so it matches the truck and looks right. Go ahead and take a look at what I've got going on right now. As you can see, I taped off the gauge faces, sprayed the olive green on there, and here is the speedometer. And as you can see, that turned out really nice. We just got to do one more gauge over there, and we've got to finish prepping and painting our panel over here, and we can stick them in and install it. We'll go ahead and get that done and moved on to the finished product. And there you go. We got a nice green panel with all new gauges in it. We've assembled the back of it, and we've made ourselves a harness here. Now, if you look at this gauge panel, you'll notice this has nice plug-ins in it. And we just had to tie everything together. I've got one connector here is all of our signals for our gauges, and the other one is going to be ignition, power, ground, and lighting. This way, if you ever have to remove this, just 2 plugs, boom, you're out, you're done. You can buy these weather pack kits online and install your own connectors. It makes life way easier. All right, that's going to wrap it up on the gauge cluster for the M37. We won't revisit this cluster until we do the wiring on the truck after we get the engine installed and start routing and connecting all of those things. Thanks for tuning in. If you have any questions or comments or suggestions, feel free to email me at greasyboycustoms@gmail.com. We'll see you next time. Happy hot rodding.